Hi everybody, Lord Maim here with part 12 of the Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough, Priority Tuchanka. This is of course what it's all been leading up to, the first major offensive against the Reapers, pitting both the Turians and the Krogan against the Reapers, with a nice little deal with the Devil you may or may not take with the Solarians. Depending on what your choice are, you can actually get all three races to join you if you're willing to make the sacrifice of your integrity. Right at the start, you'll be dealing with a rather substantial wave of husks. 16 husks that you'll have to deal with. Ostensibly, you're trying to defend Eve, but realistically, it's just wave after wave of husks trying to gnaw on your face, so just hang back, wait for them to attack you, and deal with them accordingly. It's only husks, so just your singularity will be more than enough to pin them into an area, a nice crowd control feature. You won't get too many at a time, so not too much to worry about. Incendiary ammo is always good. Just try to keep track of where your squad is and what is trying to chew on their bum. In this case, we have a couple of husks finding Garrus. It's extremely delicious. I don't know, maybe Tyrion tastes like chicken, but keep an eye out for that. Not too much to worry about. The husks all come from one of two possible directions, so you can actually get ahead of the wave if you're fast enough, trying to attack them as soon as they enter rather than once they reach you, potentially in larger numbers. Once the last husk has been killed, you have a cinematic in the little grotto there with Eve, and then you'll get back in your trucks for the next stage of the mission.
Was there something you were going to say?
At this point, you'll have your first chance to actually choose how you're going to resolve the mission by telling Eve about the Dalatras's deal or not, depending on how you want it resolved. After some additional cinematics, you'll gain access to the underground of the Krogan city. Of course, leaving you behind when everyone's going to safety. This entire area is more or less non-combat. I'll show it here because there are a couple of paintings that you can look at that will give you some credits for salvage. And it's actually a fairly substantial amount of credits, so it's worthwhile exploring this underground area and finding all of the paintings and artifacts.
That's the city of the ancients.
How do we get out?
No maps exist. It's been abandoned for thousands of years.
You're a trailblazer, Shepard. Get through there and we'll find a place to meet up. Nothing will stop this cure.
This painting suggests Krogan had an artistic side.
Had being the operative word. And now they have rubble.
So 8,500 credits for looking at a painting is a pretty good deal. There are 3 or 4 of them as you go through this area, so take the time to actually look through them. You're in no danger, so there's no point in rushing if you don't want to.
That didn't feel like a tremor to me. Rex, are you guys feeling these tremors?
Not up here.
It could be something else, Commander. It is said that Kalros, the mother of all Thresher Maws, lives in this region.
Which is another reason to get your ass out of there, Shepard. Step on it.
Foreshadowing
Did I
much?
hear that right? Kalros, the mother of all Thresher Maws?
When the Krogan name a Thresher Maw, you know you're in trouble. They don't think anyone's ever going to kill it.
that's what we've been hearing down here. I suggest we get moving.
When you find the dead Rachni body, that'll tell you that you're out of the underground area and about to emerge back into daylight. It also marks the end of the safe area in this mission. After this, it's more or less straight up fighting just about every step of the way. Climb up the stairs here and you'll emerge into another underground area, then out again into the daylight.
Light ahead. In my younger days, I would have loved to have spent time here studying these ruins.
It makes you wonder what the Krogan might have done if they hadn't blown up the planet.
Rex, we made it back outside.
Well, if you can see sunlight, that's progress.
And the color green. I thought plants were extinct around here.
You're looking at hope, all that's left of it on Tuchanka. This is once a world full of beauty. Given a chance, it can be again.
Shepard, that Reaper is still up to no good at the Shroud. Find a way out of there and we'll pick you up.
Moving ahead slightly past this point, you'll trigger a new wave of enemies.
I never knew the Krogan had this in
You should have no problems with your ammunition at this point since you've only had the one encounter with the husks.
Genophage might lead to a
The good thing about the enemies at this stage is that even if you don't happen to be looking in the right direction, when they spawn, you'll hear them come down in the fireball, so you'll be able to easily find them. Cannibals and Ravagers will spawn in this wave. Cannibals on the left, Ravagers will come up the walkway to the right. Try to eliminate them before they get too close to you while you still have cover. Failing that, eliminate all the cannibals and then use the cover down in the trench to get away from the Ravagers. When dealing with creatures with armor, it's best to weaken their armor using a warp ability, and then soften them up perhaps with Garrus's proximity mine or your own grenades if you feel up to it. Otherwise, just your ordinary incendiary ammo will be fine. Another thing to point out with the Ravagers, you got to be careful of the tiny swarmers. The easiest way to deal with them is just to drop a singularity in the area. It will easily take out any of the swarmers in the area and essentially act as a barrier for them. They won't be able to get past it, they just keep running into it and dying instantly. They're not much threat on their own, but when they do reach you in groups of 3 or more, when they jump at you, it'll take a sizable chunk out of your shields or life, depending on what your state is at the time. Once the last enemies are destroyed, again sweep the area looking for ammunition. There is more static ammunition that spawns in the trench, or in this area where the cannibals spawned. Usually there'll be a couple of them dropping ammo. But sweep the area thoroughly before continuing. Once you're ready, head across the bridge. Almost instantly after jumping over the bridge, the next encounter will occur. Try to keep your squad back, because immediately after this group of enemies will be another wave that includes a brute. And depending on how much of a jump you get on them, the last thing you need is your squad tripping you up while trying to dodge a brute. Again, fire up the warp ability to weaken his armor, then use Adrenaline Rush to slow him down and boost your sniper rifle's power. Try to aim on the brute. If you notice, it's got large metal plates that will actually come off if you happen to hit them with your sniper fire. Ideally, what you want to do is try to hit him along the spine where there are no armor plates, or in the head. That's also a good place. Essentially, anywhere where you don't see large, thick armor plating is probably the best place to go for. After a couple shots, however, just about anything is fair game.
I think that's it for now.
Once you've taken care of the brutes and the 3 husks, sweep the area again for ammo and continue.
Rex, you're right about Calros. She's on the move.
This next encounter is a bit weird. It's separated up into separate waves, but you can actually trigger the second wave accidentally by advancing too far. The second you climb up these stairs here, you'll get the first wave in Encounter 4, where you'll get 4 cannibals near the entrance to this area. Take care of them. If you notice the stairwell to the left, if you advance too far that way or too far forward to where that pillar is, you'll actually trigger the second half of the wave and essentially double the amount of enemies that will be coming at you at that moment. Depending on how much ammo, that may or may not be a good thing for you, but more enemies at a time is generally never a good thing. Generally never. No, I realize the contradiction, just I'm glossing. The second part of this wave is the Ravagers, and this is where the real trouble would come in if you have multiple waves at once. Ravagers are never a good thing, but generally, unless you can focus your whole attention on them, it's going to cause you problems. Singularities, though, help you with crowd control as usual, same with the cannibals in the area. Interesting point about Ravagers. The Swarmers, they actually spawn out of the sacks that you see on the Ravagers. If you manage to kill them without splitting those sacks open, you can actually avoid a good portion of the Swarmers that come at you. If you use Singularity, though, that probably won't be a big deal for you, since that tends to stop them pretty much at the source. So it's always nice to have a Singularity handy if you're dealing with Ravagers, just to be safe. And yet again, sweep the area for ammunition before going on. Going across this bridge, you'll have another little cinematic with Rex's vehicle and Calros. Rex and or Reeve, depending on your choices in Mass Effect 1 or in Mass Effect Genesis, as the case may be. Jump the gap and continue onwards.
Go on ahead, Shepard. We'll try to shake this thing and find you.
Pressure mark getting closer.
Tell me something I don't know.
Metal in truck.
Interesting note, it happens here for the first time, but it's not really affecting you. When the screen shakes like that due to an impact, this will be a big issue coming up in towards the end of the game when you return to Earth. But anytime you have a situation where the screen is shaking and you can't get a bead on something, what you can do is by holding the left or right triggers, or the L2, R2 buttons rather, you can actually wait out the shaking. So time will stop. The shaking, though, will come to an end after about 20 to 30 seconds, and you can line up your shot like normal. Everything will be fine. This first wave, there's just a bunch of cannibals. Take them out before the next wave spawns, which is another small wave of husks, but it'll be a continuous stream of them. So deal with them a couple at a time using Singularity to perform crowd control. because these two waves are kind of one on top of the other, don't get into a situation where cannibals are throwing grenades at you while you're getting swarmed by husks. That's just a recipe for a bad day.
Doing what we can. What about you?
Alarmed yet entertained. Calros is quite persistent.
Wave 3 changes it up a little bit, but only a little bit. There's 2 Marauders, not a big deal. If you've already taken care of the husks and the cannibals, these won't pose you too much of a threat. Just use Garrus as overload to take care of their shields, take them on as normal. At this point in the game, you should have the tools to deal with just about everything.
Shepard, we've almost lost Calros. Get down from there and we'll find you.
Picking up all the ammo you can, move on to the next area. There'll be a short cinematic here as you rejoin the convoy.
The tower was built in an arena devoted to Calros' glory.
After which you'll get a briefing on Rex and Eve's insane plan.
There are 2 Maw hammers there, the largest in existence. If you can activate them, Calros will come. That should distract the Reaper.
Insane and or awesome. I mean, it really depends on how crazy you are. I thought it was pretty awesome. And crazy. Immediately upon starting this next session, you'll have a small spawn of 5 cannibals. They'll just drop right in via Reaver Comet, or however you want to call it. Day Wreckers. It's a small enough wave, though, that it shouldn't really interrupt your flow. Singularity is always fun to pop cannibals or any other creature out of cover.
We're kind of busy, Rex.
Lucky for you, I'm here. I'll handle it.
Nothing like seeing him pop up helpless, shooting him in the air like a giant potpourri pinata thing. Much like Scions, cannibals are also filled with potpourri. Fun fact.
Shepard, some luck. Original strain in storage. Preparing the cure now.
Make it quick, Morton. They're all over us out here.
Popping across the gap in this bridge will trigger the next cinematic and kind of a hectic sequence. Don't be too concerned, just keep moving. Dropping down to the main area, you'll be forced to move, in theory, from cover to cover, trying to avoid the Reaper's humongous beam.
Fine here. Mostly.
It's not as challenging as it might seem at first, but having this thing firing at you will definitely give you a pause. Just keep pushing onward. When your cover is destroyed, move on to the next cover. If at all possible, stay behind cover when it is firing, just in case you happen to get tagged, but it's generally not an issue. Once you reach this next area with the barrier, you'll get another cinematic and be thrown into the next little challenge. This one also seems a lot harder than it actually is. You'll be faced by a grand total of not 1, not 2, but 5 brutes. They'll spawn one right after another in sequence. The best thing to do is to find a clear path and just run for it. Don't even try to kill them. You'll end up getting caught between a couple of them, or between a giant Reaper foot, and it will end badly for everyone. On either side of this area are the 2 triggers for the hammers. As you're going through the side areas and through the middle here, keep an eye out for this giant shadow that happens to form. That indicates you're about to get stepped on by the mother of all bad days. Generally speaking, if you're at the edge of the shadow, you probably won't get hit, but it is still a possibility, so try to avoid them. And with that, you'll get the end of the mission cinematic, including quite possibly the most awesome sequence in Mass Effect 3, where Cal Ross takes down a Reaper. Talk about enemy of my enemy. And that will be the end of part 12 of Mass Effect 3 Insanity walkthrough Priority Tuchanka, including the very somber death of Mordin Solus. Tune in next time for part 13, N7 Cerberus Fighter Base. Till then, I'm Lord Maim. Thanks for watching.